Hello and welcome to Sports Spotlight, where we'll be casting our eye over the midweek Premier League matches. I'm joined by sports editor Nick Howson. Nick, will start off with Chelsea. They had a blip at the weekend against Sunderland, drawing 0-0, but were in imperious form last night, brushing aside what should have been a more difficult match against Tottenham Hotspur. Even without their star player, Diego Costa, there we had goals from strikers Drogba and Remy. Just how strong is this Chelsea team?
Yeah, I mean, bar sort of a 15-minute spell where Tottenham had one or two opportunities at the start of the game, it was, as you say, an imperious performance from Chelsea, who, despite Jose Mourinho trying to suggest otherwise, is sort of certainly coming towards, obviously getting closer to an unbeaten campaign. So we're a long way away from actually finding if that's realistic, but they've certainly got a squad, as was shown last night with Didier Drogba coming in. There's been concerns over him, whether he has the capacity to come in. Certainly. His better days are certainly long, distant memory. So he comes in and scores, and obviously Loic Remy comes off the bench and sort of bullied his way to Chelsea's third goal. Amid that, you've got obviously the entertaining players, the likes of Eden Hazard, the likes of Oscar, who sort of put the garnish on what is still quite a stubborn Chelsea team. Yes, they were without Gary Cahill for the second half yesterday, but they still look really solid. They just shut the game down when they went 2-0 up last night. Tottenham really had no answer after that. So, I mean, this Chelsea team are as good as they want to be. We talked about an unbeaten season. I see no reason why they can't go on and win it. That's certainly my tip to win the Champions League as well as the league. The sky's the limit, without wanting to utter the utmost cliche.
While Chelsea have had an unbeaten season, then Arsenal's Premier League campaign so far has been pretty dismal. At the weekend, we saw a Wenger out banner unfurled by the fans. It seemed like quite a professional job as well, which was of interest. But they've now won 3 games on the bounce, including last night's 1-0 narrow win over Southampton. Has Wenger turned things around, or is this just a stay of execution until the latest crisis unfurls?
It's a difficult one to judge, actually, because football supporters will famously make knee-jerk reactions to, particularly just dependent basically on results. Arsenal's spreadsheets and their financial results are perhaps scrutinised more than any other club because of how much money they bring in and how much cash reserves they have. So I think we should perhaps take this show of criticism towards Wenger in terms of his role at Arsenal a bit more seriously, because the results are actually okay. I mean, barring the good performance against Manchester United, they could be on 3 wins in a row. It could well have been 4. They go to Stoke at the weekend. It could well be, they could well extend that. So we should take this a lot more seriously. In terms of there's still a question mark, I guess, over their competitiveness against the very big clubs. Yes, they beat Borussia Dortmund, the Champions League runners-up a couple of years ago. But there's still concerns that they can't really do it with the big clubs. And yes, okay, they've beaten Southampton, who are third, but there's still a long way to go in terms of Wenger trying to cement that he can take the team forward. He thinks he can win the league before his contract runs out in a couple of years. You'd find it very difficult to find many Arsenal fans who actually agree with him.
And finally, we'll move on to the reigning champions, Manchester City. They were terrific against Sunderland last night, winning 4-1 at the Stadium of Light. And all the talk is about their star player, Sergio Aguero. He's scored 2 last night. Has he filled the void left by Luis Suarez to become the Premier League's top player?
I think he's certainly the best all-round striker. I think if we want to feel, we look at Diego Costa and look at how his appetite for goals is relentless. But he's not an all-round. He's not going to pick the ball up at the halfway line, go past a couple of players. He's not going to be an assist machine like Aguero was, and that brilliant touch to set up Jovetic yesterday against Sunderland as well. So Aguero's got more of an all-round game, which is closer to what Suarez has. I think there's still a long way to go in terms of if we can compare Aguero to what Suarez actually did, particularly last season. And I think that's a lot to do with his injury record. If he could have a full season ahead of him, then we can start making genuine comparisons with Suarez. But the Suarez did this season after season, barring a few indiscretions on and off the field, he more or less did it throughout his entire Premier League career. Aguero's been in and out, lots of injuries in the middle there. So a full campaign, and we'll see where we're at. But at the moment, his current form, he's certainly the best player in the league at the moment, which I think is a phrase too often coined. We like to define the best player in the league far too often, almost every weekend. So at the moment, obviously, Aguero, certainly the best player in the league at the moment, but we'll see whether he can sort of match the feats of Suarez, and I guess over the rest of the season.
Well, for all our sports coverage, go to our website, ibtimes.co.uk/sport.